Welcome back to Down the Slope. As we told you last week, we'd be sitting here 16 games unbeaten. Hibs are absolutely flying. I am joined by Liam and Craig once again. Craig, you made the trip along to Ibrox on Saturday. Just how good a day did you have?
As Martin Boyle put it, it was very, very enjoyable. It was a good one. It's nice to beat them again. It's been what 29 games or something like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, it was fun. It was bizarre as well. I was just saying to Liam just now. It's the most comfortable I've ever felt at Ibrox, like or the least under pressure. Normally, you get spells of a good 20, 25 minutes where it's just constant pressure, and
Hmm.
you just feel like it's a matter of time before the ball goes in the net. But I didn't really feel like we ever got that. So it was quite nice. Out with the the usual sort of fears of anything can happen. I did feel genuinely very comfortable in the game.
Hmm. Liam, you drove the sort of narrative for us last week around, are the good times here to stay, or what, like, how long should we expect this? Well, they're still here for one more week at least. Just how enjoyable was your Saturday, and your wider weekend? And obviously you turned about 45 or something on
Very
Sunday,
good.
so.
That's plenty for you. Fucking plenty for you. No, it was a really good weekend. You do worry when you put together an episode title of "Are the Good Times Here to Stay?" that could get thrown back in your face very, very quickly. Like almost within 5 days, it could get clipped up and put back out there. But I think I'm speaking for all of us when I say we're actually all genuinely confident on Monday. It's not like we were all putting on an act, and
Mhm.
I was pretty confident going into Saturday, albeit, as Craig points out, we've obviously not got a brilliant record there or against them in recent times in the league, certainly. So, it's still Ibrox, isn't it? It's still
Mhm.
probably the second toughest place in Scottish football to go, but boy, did we make it look easy.
I know that was the it was a really well deserved 3 points ultimately, wasn't it? Like it was a comfort. You both said it was a pretty comfortable afternoon. Rangers were always going to create chances, and the game sort of went, Craig, how we probably thought it would. Hibs sort of defend deep, frustrate Rangers, and sort of defend narrow, let them have the ball out wide, and hit them on the counter. Just a really well executed game plan from start to finish.
Yeah, yeah, but it was good. Like you say, we were sort of debating last Monday whether we were going to come out for it and sort of show maybe more of an attacking style that we did in the first half an hour at Easter Road. But I think we kind of all thought that it would go the way it did, in the sense that, like you say, we were sitting a bit deeper. The only thing I was worried when the teams came out is Czerny. For whatever reason, I completely forgot about him being a thing, and I was a bit concerned about him, similar to Nicholas Kuhn when he cuts in onto the left foot. I was a wee bit worried about that because I know he can cause problems.
Yeah,
But we just shut him down every
I
time
know. Do you
every
know?
time he came in.
That was a real highlight for me, not to get into individuals or stuff too quickly, but I thought Obita and then Iredale following up just defended Cherney so
Yeah,
well throughout the game. Like, just were so happy to keep him on his right side, and obviously that meant that Iredale maybe couldn't block the cross, but because it's his weaker side, it was like you knew he wasn't going to get a good cross in, and Obita couldn't close the cross, and so many times Iredale was just there in that area for that sort of cut back to the edge of the 6 yard box and clear it away, and that's the thing when you like that aids to the comfortableness as well, though, eh? Like you can physically see that Rangers were doing what we wanted them to do, Liam, if that
yeah,
makes sense.
Aye, absolutely. And we talked about this again last week, about the whole kind of keep it tight narrative and watch the fans get on top of them. And I think there was a few instances after we scored the first goal of, the fans getting on top of them and them just doing some really strange, bizarre things in
Hmm.
the game that just didn't really make sense, either whether it was from sort of a kind of tactical shape perspective or just what they were doing on the ball. It was quite clear from really early on we had them rattled and they didn't really find any rhythm, I don't think, until sort of maybe the last 10, 15 minutes of the first half. I think they had a little bit of a spell at that point in the game where they had a couple of chances. Czerny has a chance, doesn't he? And if I'm not mistaken, Dessers has
I think Dessers
chance.
had two,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Dessers, of course. Who else? But Big Cereal, Dessers. Who else is going to have the chance? None other than Big Cereal.
Do you know what it is though as well? The two chances that spring to mind for me from well, I think he had three in the first half. Jordan Smith makes a good save, but it comes from a clear foul on Miko at the halfway line.
I was trying to say that. My dad.
And then there was another one where the other two actually, it does come from sort of poor play from Hibs. Chiantis gives the ball to Levitt with three players around him and they sort of pounce, and the other one comes on a counter where Czerny and Dessers are left 2v2 with Iredale and Rocky. And that was from a point of our attack, like where we'd sort of flooded the box and left ourselves a bit wide open. But yeah, no, we'll say it again, it was a very comfortable afternoon, and especially in the second half. I know we'll come into little bits and pieces, but I thought we were immense in the second half, and I felt we definitely carried more of a threat in the second half than we did in the first half. But were you surprised, Craig, when you eventually got through to Ibrox on Saturday to see the exact same 11 that lined up against St Johnstone?
Maybe a wee bit surprised. I maybe expected a couple of those to be changed. Probably I was expecting maybe Bowie to be back in for Miko. But I think ultimately, if you look at it, everybody always says, and it's a bit of the old cliche of you don't change a winning team, and maybe there is something in that wee bit of consistency. Make as few changes as you possibly can. Obviously, I highlight Miko as the one that I thought maybe should, or I had going out, but I actually thought, to give him a wee bit of credit, I thought he was quite good at the weekend. I don't think he was immense or anything like that, but I thought he done his job reasonably well. And there was a couple of times, one particularly in the second half, where I thought, I always harp on about hold-up play with Miko, but one of them was superb, where he takes it in under pressure, beats a couple of guys, and then holds it and waits on a run, and then sends it out and really got us right up the back. So maybe I thought there was going to be one or two changes, but it's always easy in hindsight to look back and say when you've won 2-0, it was spot on.
Yeah, Liam, that's the thing. I think you've seen as the game went out that the lineup was obviously correct, but definitely a surprise that Miko and maybe Junior Hoylett stayed in that 11 for you, or?
Aye, definitely. I mean, I kind of said that last week that David Gray is very much the horses for courses manager, so I was really surprised because ultimately, what we were demanding from the team in that game, we were expecting to be very different from the game against St Johnstone, but ultimately, a lot of facets of the game actually stayed pretty similar in terms of our level of control within the game. Nothing has more exemplified the mentalness of football, by the way, than St Johnstone, who were absolutely wretched against us when beating Celtic yesterday. Who, I know Celtic have fallen off a wee bit, but just football, sometimes just surprises you. Sorry.
It's mental. You're right. It's mental. I was talking about that on Saturday night actually, like a couple of boys, and it was like if Celtic just remotely play half decent, they could have ran up 3, 4, 5. You know what I mean? Like easy days. But I mean, anyway, we digress. I was going to say, I was going to move us on, but let's talk to some of the guys in the YouTube comments. Chris Black, what a day Saturday was. Easy afternoon and could just point and laugh at the knuckle dragging mutants. John McGlynn, did anyone clock the Huns singing Barry Ferguson to the tune of Tommy Robinson? Says it all about those flag shagging, web-footed, free-toothed heathens. Craig, you would have been singing his name to that tune come full time though as well. That looked like a wonderful 15 or 20 minutes that you got locked in after the game.
It was good. Barry Ferguson was taking a bit of a pelting, and I never see after you lose a game, I never understand these like fans of the losing team that stick around for so long just to get shouted at. Like it doesn't make sense. Like why I'm head down, get out of the stadium as quick as I possibly can. If I'm really riled up, I'll maybe shout on my way out, but I don't understand. There was a lot of them sticking around to.
On our friend Liam, if the shoe was on the other foot and Hibs were 2-0 down against Rangers at Easter Road by the time the full time whistle went, I think he'd be halfway home. I think that would be.
I'd be fucking somewhere. I don't know, somewhere in the Meadowbank area, I would imagine.
Just a couple other comments in there. Frosty McRambo still quoting you, and we're winning the league next season. Look, this is I want to say it's League One in form, but I don't know if it is or no. Like I obviously looked at the
It is.
Critchley table, and as Anthony Brown was telling us about around Christmas time when that was a comfort blanket from the first league derby defeat. I think what was the comfort blanket after the second one, or that they sold out all their tickets to Hampden or
Comfort
something.
Blanket FC, man.
Like it didn't bother them at all that 2 weeks. Even now they're selling tickets for fucking Hampden, and they're going, "I but Hibs sold 7,000 to Celtic Park." But it's an incredible run of form, isn't it? And why not? Why not Frosty? I think just the Celtic and Rangers are just lucky that we took the first 3 months of the season off, if you ask me, and gave them a head start. But look, Dylan Levitt gets us off to the dream start, Liam. I mean, what a thunderous, rapturous finish that is! That just Super Jack Butler and goals just simply had no chance.
I mean, what a strike! What a strike! I'm very much in the camp of I love the aesthetic of a long throw, but goals so seldom come from it. Now I know it doesn't actually come from a long throw because it's second phase and all that, but obviously it does kind of cause disruption
Ah,
that in the box and it breaks back out. And part of why I would imagine he selected Dylan Levitt over Nathan Mariah Welsh is because when chances like that fall to Dylan Levitt around the edge of the box, we know that he's capable of producing something. I know he's maybe not shown it as much as you like, but I think in his first loan spell at Dundee United,
yeah.
did not score 7 or 8 goals that
He
season, all from
scored
open
plenty.
play.
And then I have a real
Um,
vivid memory of watching Sportscene on his first game in his permanent
right.
game there. We were talking about Craig when we were at Kelly away. He scored a fucking screamer for them at Kelly away.
I
And
remember, I remember the
uh,
goal. I can still remember the goal. So he's obviously got goal scoring's obviously part of his part of his game. He's just not played regularly and consistently enough for him since he's been here, or he's been
mhm.
played really deep in a two where he's not been able to get forward. And there's something about Dylan Levitt I wanted to just mention because I heard it was quite a long time ago. I heard a Dundee United fan say just after he'd signed for Hibs something that really stuck with me and it's never left me. He said, when things are going good, Dylan Levitt's a great player, like a great player. And in his first season for Dundee United, when he finished fourth or fifth under Tam Courts, he was like they're probably their best player. And then they obviously had a shocker under Jack Ross and
Uh,
then Liam Fox. And then I think Jim Goodwin even came in towards the
yes.
end of that season where they went down. And he said, when the times are tough, he's just not the guy that you want. He doesn't rise to the occasion. And I think I'm not saying this or look for fault or anything, but he has come into a team that's performing well and he has put in the performances that absolutely mean he deserves to be playing. But I also think there is just a bit of a factor of it's a really nice bit of timing for him in terms of he's come into a team where he's been asked to do the job that he probably was bought to do. He wasn't really bought to be a second sort of sitter in a
Uh,
4-4-2, or he wasn't bought to be a scrapper, he wasn't brought to be a number 10. He was brought to be that sort of secondary midfielder in the system we play at the moment. And he's doing it really, really well. So I'm absolutely no complaints. But the strike is it's just a good strike in it. Goalkeeper
yeah.
shouldn't get a beat, but he catches it cleanly. And it's always that thing, you buy a ticket to the lottery, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, Craig, I'm seeing some comments in the YouTube chat there, but from you yourself talking, I think talking to your brother. Your sports scene famous now, is that? Were you caught on camera this
I was
weekend,
caught
are
on
you?
camera several times. One in particular, it must have been towards the end of the game. There was a lot of them, obviously. To be fair, there was a lot of them as soon as the second goal hits the net. Like, I'm talking
Subway loyal, isn't it?
several hundred, maybe even into the thousands of folk instantly just got up and left. Uh, so they were getting a wee wave as they were
Happy
on their way
days.
out, and
Chris
I was
Black on
clocked on camera.
Chris Black on the YouTube comments as well, saying he was all over the telly and I was loving it. 40-year-old man acting like he's 20. That's just like being on a night out with you, Liam. Do you know what? Do you
Catching some strays tonight,
know?
like
You
Do you know
again,
what?
huh?
Do you know what I did enjoy, Craig? Though, and it is like that with being like in the corner of Ibrox and the when the goal goes in at that other end. There is that like split second delay between the ball going in and then hearing the away end.
Aye.
Especially, I'm guessing the angle you would have had, like going through the bodies, looks in the middle of the goal, but it must have been the quote on limbs looked
Do you know
fantastic.
what? It was one of these bizarre ones. I was actually talking to Bex earlier about that. Because from where I was, and certainly obviously most of our end, I think maybe the ones right on the edge maybe had a better view on it. But I was pretty much right behind Levitt when he hit it, and I could see the goalie as he hit it, and then it all closed up because there's so many players in the way. So I couldn't see the ball hitting the goalie, and I didn't even see the ball hitting the net. I seen the top of the net moving, and then our players running away, and that's how we all knew it was in. It was one of these delayed, like, because it was probably in the net for a few seconds before anybody knew it was in.
Aye.
It's class though.
Outside the goal, it was probably again, like we said, we've already touched on Hibs sort of sat in and made it difficult for Rangers, and we've already referenced the chances. What we didn't mention, sort of the only other thing in the first half was the VAR check for the tackle on Triantis. Without sounding too conspiracy theorist, if it was the other way about, do you think Nectar Triantis probably got sent off then?
Yes.
Aye, I would agree. Craig, have you seen it back?
Yeah, I have seen it back. To be honest, I don't disagree with you as if it was the other way around. I think if Chance puts a tackle in like that at Ibrox, I think the crowd pressure is enough probably
If we
to
took that,
force them.
if we took that angle away from it, do you think it's a red card?
No, not for
I,
me.
I don't think it's a red card either, but I think you look at the Kofi Balmer sending off. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to
Yeah.
watch Sports Scene, the
Oh,
Motherwell
a
game.
load of nonsense.
I think to a certain extent, albeit it's probably a worse tackle than Raskin, and I also think the James Wilson tackle at the weekend against an example of something that a number of years ago probably isn't, but now absolutely is a red card. I don't know. It feels to me like the threshold is almost changing on a weekly basis as to what constitutes a red card and what doesn't.
Do you know what I thought? And again, we're sort of talking about other instances, but it is relevant to our game. So I think Raskin's lucky, but I probably don't think it is a red card. It's probably if it gets given as it's one of them. If it gets given as
It's
a
a
red card on the
50-50,
field,
mate.
he goes. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think they overturn it. I think James Wilson's definitely a red card. I do. I think that's 100%, and I don't think Balmer is a red. But do you know what I thought when I seen it? Do you think the Liverpool Everton game's been in the referee's head for during the week? Do you know what I mean? How like he's cleared the ball and then I just like
Mikey Stewart said that in Sports Scene.
Oh, did
He said pointed out, and he says he definitely thinks that was in the mind. But
About
see,
which
for me,
tackle?
it's just
Sorry, was he saying that in reference to?
Balmer's one.
Tarkovsky.
I mean,
No. I mean, which tackle was he saying it about in the Scottish game?
the Motherwell one, I think,
The
Craig,
Motherwell
right?
Oh, one, right, right.
Yeah,
Aye.
correct. Yep.
I don't think Raskin should have been sent off. But forgive me, was Chanis's red card against Motherwell no similar?
Got
At
a
Easter
tackle in
Road,
mind.
or was that a
No, that was a
second
That was
second
a
yellow?
second
yellow. I
yellow.
Was that a second yellow for a similar
Aye,
tackle? Maybe
aye.
right. Okay, never mind. Anyway, we digress. Well, do you know what? We're going to continue talking about the referee anyway. Hibs started the second half pretty well, and the sort of first real noticeable event in the second half, which again almost instantly then led to Rangers nearly equalising when they hit the bar. A potential penalty for a handball on James Tavernier. Is it Tavernier? I'm not quite sure. I will give my opinion on that first. And I don't think it hits his thigh first. I've not seen an angle to suggest it does, or it's not obvious. I think it has to be a penalty. The ball's travelled a long way. He can tuck his arm away if he wants to. I don't necessarily think he's got it, miles away from his body, but it just has to be a penalty and a potential second yellow card after he got a stonewall yellow card in the first half for a foul on Martin Boyle. I just don't understand how that isn't a penalty if it hasn't hit his leg firstly.
There was
I think
definitely a
back to
delay
Nicky
for the check.
Cadden. Yeah, they looked at
There
it.
was a delay for
They
the check.
definitely
It
looked
did
at it.
stop play for a while. There's no really much to add to that. It's a second yellow and it's a penalty.
I don't understand the difference between that and Nicky Cadden at Ross County.
That's way worse.
Cadden maybe a little bit further out potentially.
Cadden's is behind him, and there's nobody else there.
The ball just
We had
comes right
Josh
across his
Campbell.
body. Like
Aye.
it's easy to just pull your arm away.
At the time, at the game, I was convinced it was a penalty. Like, I was absolutely 100% convinced. And I've not seen anything since to make me not think it's a penalty, because the distance that the ball travels and he sees it the whole way, nothing interferes with it. I just think his hand's out enough. He stops it going through. So for me, it's a pen. I was wondering what you were on about when you in the agenda when you said about Tavernier second yellow. But I suppose that it would have been a second yellow. So.
Do we think it definitely would have been a yellow card? Like, because you can handball it without it being a yellow card, right? Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not actually quite sure. Like, would it? Because I don't. Do you only get booked for handball if it's deliberate? I don't know. I'm
I
just
don't know.
assuming it should have been a second yellow because
Usually when you
it
give a
fuels my
foul,
agenda.
when you give a foul away for a penalty, generally a booking comes
Aye,
out. I would say most of the time. Maybe
aye.
somebody will have something else to
So
say on that one.
a couple comments on the YouTube chat around the around the refereeing decisions. Frosty, if it was last season, the challenge on Triantis, it would have been a penalty at Rangers. Leon, they can't make their mind up week to week what's a red card and what's not. Certainly feels like they are. Chris Raskin should have been booked, but that's the thing that annoys
Uh,
him. He thinks it's a booking, and
they
that's
can't. The rules of VAR don't allow them to correct it, which is annoying because it's ultimately you've done the hard
yeah.
work in reviewing it. Why not just take an
And the ref
extra
didn't give a
15
foul, did he?
seconds to go and give you a yellow card? It's a wee bit like them, them not checking the second yellows.
Aye,
Just take the time. Just like if you're because I think sometimes they check a second yellow and they're checking it to see if it's a straight red card or not.
aye,
Why would you not therefore then just take the time if you're going to do it anyway to just make sure the decision's right? Because ultimately a red card's a red card, a yellow card's a yellow card. Like it still impacts the game. I
aye.
know you can't do it for every single,
Booking, but.
but
If it's the foul that leads to a red card, then it's
aye,
it was this that the perfect example was Joe Newell at Dundee United. He got given a
aye,
second yellow, but they checked for a straight red, and
aye,
that's the one thing that they say went in Hibs' favour on the key match panel thing. The thing that one of the ones that went in Hibs' favour was that Joe Newell only got a second yellow instead of a fucking straight red. Where are we? Where are we? Sorry, I've lost track in the YouTube. Chris thinks it's a penalty. Mike thinks it's a penalty. Ian thinks it's a penalty. I think Jane Sandy thinks it's a penalty, and John McGlynn says we have had our penalty quota for Ibrox. There's no way we're getting two in a season. Do you know?
Can I just say something really
We also
obvious
got
at
one
this
Easter
point?
Road, didn't we?
Can I just say something really obvious at this point? Thank fuck Hibernian Football Club ensured that that was not the main talking
Aye.
point tonight. Because I just genuinely don't think I could have come and talked about another refereeing injustice against Rangers.
Oh,
That's
no.
the main thing. I'm just so relieved that Hibernian Football Club saw them off.
Are we just paranoid football fans though? Because we have actually had penalties in our two games against them this year. I'm going to say no because I think the one at Easter Road's a penalty, and I think John Souttar should have been sent off at Ibrox. Because I've never heard the excuse of the goalkeeper saving it anyway as an excuse to not send someone off for
Oh
fucking
fuck! I
handling the ball
forgot
on the
about
Nah,
that
line.
actually.
100% agree.
I'd
100%
forgot
agree
about
about
that.
Suter.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so
It was a red card.
I'm choosing to believe that I'm not paranoid, but and user fueling my agenda by agreeing with me. You mentioned that Hibs got the job done. We ensured that we got the job done by according to Michael Stewart, a really mishit pass from Jordan Obita, and Martin Boyle had the freedom of Ibrox to run in and pop it through Jack Butland's goal. Little shout out to Kieran Bowie cutting across John Souttar, just to a little bit of Lee Johnson football IQ there, Craig, just to.
By the way, I know you're obviously perhaps being a wee bit sarcastic there, but that is smart shithousery play that I think over the years we have lacked, like the Andy Considine, Ryan Porteous feeling a touch and going down. Sometimes it's shitty to look at, but it does the job, and that is the exact type of thing I'm on about.
Mhm.
Just block the man off, and he does it perfectly.
So good.
Do you know what I like about that as well, though? He's ensuring that if there's a save, he's there to
He's there.
score.
I know.
Do you know what I
Or he
mean? Like
gets fouled
like you've seen
and doesn't get
players
a pen.
in the past that, in Bowie's possession or maybe just, jog up and then not react to be able to get the tap in or that. Like if Butland saves that, it comes straight back out and or goes to an angle. Like Bowie's probably got a good chance of getting on the end of that and scoring himself, but it's a really good finish there through the goalie's legs.
He wasn't putting them away earlier on the season, but he's all of a sudden found his knack again. And because let's be honest, I mean, probably as much as any player in the league, maybe other than Dyson Maeda, he finds himself in that position more than everyone else, bearing down on the goalkeeper. So I'm sure it's something that he works on a lot. But I think what's nice to see with Boyle is just the sort of variation in different finishes. He's done the chip, he's done the bottom corner, he's done the through the goalkeeper. I think that's a good thing because it always keeps them guessing.
Yeah, and that takes it to his best scoring season as well.
Aye. I mean, obviously Butland's coming for a lot of criticism because one thing he's actually quite good at, he is actually quite good at those sort of one-on-one situations throughout his career. He's kind of made a habit. He's played for a lot of teams, I suppose, who end up in those positions because he's typically played for kind of bottom feed English Premier League side, so he's ended up in that situation quite a lot. So it's a really good finish. I'm not going to speculate on the pass because I don't think anyone can say with any confidence. I think, I've heard all the chat about body shape this and body shape that. I don't think there's an awful lot of tell in that body shape for me, to be honest.
I think it reaches the intended target. Whether it met
Right.
whether it met the target at the destination, or maybe it was like the initial place was the city, and where Boyle got it's where Ryanair tells you're gone. Do you know what I mean? You're
Had
near
that in
Milan.
Milan. Aye, 35 mile away. Nice one,
Nah,
Ryanair. Cheers, lads.
nah, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. He's scuffed it. It's on his right foot. Abita's weaker side. I can't remember who it was in the WhatsApp chat that was absolutely ripping Mikey Stewart when he said it, and I thought I better not reply to this one because I actually agree with him. Like, I don't think he meant it. I would agree he's aiming for Boyle, but definitely not there for me.
Aye. Do you know what?
Maybe
It
not
doesn't
bothered.
fucking matter, does it? Doesn't
No.
matter. VAR check went on for fucking ages as well. It was. So again, I thought on the first sort, you see, look, your natural instinct when you see someone running clean through sort of with 10, 15 yards on them, you're thinking he is offside. But I don't know what took so long, Liam. Like the first sort of freeze frame, it was like he might even be in his own half here, and even if he
I
is,
know.
I think was it Jeff Day maybe or Tavernier, whoever it is, was just a couple of yards, or no, not a couple, like quite clearly deeper. Just so frustrating. They were looking for a potential foul, like something like that. Did Jordan
I think
Obita?
they were looking for a reason to rule it out, to be honest.
Aye.
I think they were looking for a reason to rule it out. I think when the on-field decision is no goal, I think generally what they're looking to do is back up the
Yeah,
hypothesis of the on-field
absolutely.
referees, but they couldn't find anything. So
Mhm.
Do you not think with VAR a wee bit too often? I think they're like the way they're looking at a goal is maybe wrong, rather than looking like it's kind of like when referees are going to book a player. Like for me, they should be looking for a reason not to book a player. Like, what's the mitigating circumstances? And like I would kind of look at that similar for a goal. Like, football's all about entertainment and seeing goals and stuff. And I feel like VAR's constantly looking for things to disallow goals for. Like, even our goal that got disallowed in our favourite Dundee United away, I think had that not been picked up at the time, I don't think anybody notices it really. And I feel like
Mhm.
they're just going through goals with a fine tooth comb just to fucking find something to disallow a goal with. And I
Yeah.
think that is why they were looking at that for so long, because they're looking for an excuse to disallow the goal.
Aye. Certainly when we were growing up, the sort of benefit of the doubt was given to the attacker, wasn't it? That certainly disappeared from the game. And I don't know if you're a defender, maybe you'd say rightly so. But I mean that's for another day. But we sort of spoke about Martin Boyle there a little bit. I just had a quick look there. So he's still one goal off his sort of best league scoring campaign in the top flight, which he scored 12 in the COVID season. I don't know why in my head I thought he scored quite a lot the year we won the championship, but that was just an 8 goal return. Probably the last time we've seen him play as a centre forward as much as we did. He played a wee bit in that spell. But do you fully expect him, Liam, between now and season's end to go ahead and make it his best league's campaign in goals and maybe push for 100? Because maybe that was a game we'd maybe written off that maybe wouldn't he get a goal in?
oh, tough ask to get the 100 this season, isn't it? Just given the quality of opposition that we'll be playing in the last 5 games. You never know.
We
I think he'll
double maybe at
definitely.
the weekend.
That would help. That would certainly be stat pad against Dundee, who I think the worst defensive record in the league. I think
Oh,
Dundee. Am I still right in saying? I
mate,
think
it's, it's,
they
it's
were.
historic. It's
Uh,
67 conceded in 32 games.
did that? We'll come on to the Dundee preview, but that you see or read somewhere that was like their third clean sheet of the season or something.
Fucking hell. I mean, you can be making, to be fair, when you're conceding 67 and 32, surely you're
Not
not
keeping
keeping that
many
many
clean
clean
sheets.
sheets.
No, no, no. Um, no, mental. But I think he'll surpass his best goal
Aye.
scoring record. Aye.
Um, let's just take a minute maybe before we wrap up on the game at Ibrox. Just to highlight any sort of individuals we've briefly mentioned Dale and Obita. We spoke about Martin Boyle, spoke about Dylan Levitt. is there anyone else or any of the guys that you want to go in a little bit deeper, Craig, and from the performance at the weekend?
Sorry, who did you mention there? I was just
Well,
replying to a
anyone really,
comment.
but
Just
I was
you
just
pick
sort of
anyone. Pick anyone.
anyone you want. So.
I'm going to pick out Jordan Smith, the goalie, because I think on an afternoon that at Ibrox you would expect to have a lot to do. He was quite quiet, but the one sort of big save that he had to come up with, and I actually don't think he got enough credit for it, was the Dessers one in the first half. I thought that was actually a top save. Good reactions to get his feet down to it. And maybe Jack Butland can take a wee hint there. It's not always necessary to dive down and get your arms on it and at an awkward angle. Maybe if you just use your feet,
And
that
of
does
course,
the
we were
job too.
discussing before we started, Craig, that you are a former top goalkeeper in your youth days. That
Aye,
was
absolutely, mate. I was probably the best in Seaton Boys for that sort of 5 year period. But
top level football. That.
aye.
Liam, any players that really stood out to you? Whether we have or haven't mentioned them before.
I mean, there's you could probably pick any of the three defenders to be honest, and highlight them for different reasons. But I think the one I would focus on is the man who is a bit of a bolter for Player of the Year in my opinion, Jack Iredale. I just thought he again, in terms of balls into the box, interceptions, and all of that sort of final third defending that you expect your centre backs to do. He was brilliant, but
Mm-hmm.
again in possession, he very seldom wastes a pass, whether it's a long ball, whether it's one of the shorter passes into the wing back. And I know maybe playing on the left of the three, you've got a bit more freedom, you've got a bit more of the pitch perhaps open to you. Um, Even sometimes he's quite comfortable just stepping out with the ball at his feet. I thought he did that pretty well again on Saturday, and to be honest, he's not going under the radar anymore because I think he's for very obvious reasons he will not go under the radar this season. But he probably was for a period, and he's starting to put a case together. I think for potentially being player of the season, just on the strength of the
Yeah.
performances and the consistency of them. I talked about Nicky Cadden a few weeks ago being consistent, sort of 7 out of 10s, and that would be why he wins it. I think I'd struggle to tell you the last time Iredale didn't have a 7 out of 10 or better performance.
I'm not going to spend too much time thinking about that. I think he maybe struggled at St Johnstone, Craig, when we were there, maybe, but I could be making that up. I think he got hooked after an hour.
He did. Aye.
Anyhow.
That was 3 months ago.
Outstanding
Exactly,
recall for you, by the way.
no,
You.
exactly, aye. Oh, mate, there's definitely some fucking something going on in here
Aye.
that's not quite right. The the player I think and I think it's been generally all season that hasn't got the credit he deserves, probably because the time he's been at the club now and the fact his twin brother's been so good on the other side. I thought Chris Cadden was immense at the weekend. Really, really, really good. We've debated him on here for years about maybe more around his defensive one-on-one quality in terms as a defender. I know he was still playing wing back at the weekend, but it was definitely more of a full back shift than a winger shift. Really good. Igaman scored a hat trick at Easter Road and didn't get a kick up against Chris Cadden at the weekend. I know he was playing in a different position and stuff, but Cadden kept him quiet with Lewis Miller behind him, who again is excelling at right centre back. But I felt Cadden just drove us up the park a lot, composure on the ball, just really, really good. And I do think he's just probably not getting the credit he deserves this season generally for his performances because his brother's been so good on the left hand side, and ultimately, players like Rocky and Iredale and Boyle and stuff like that are sort of grabbing the headlines. But I thought he was really, really good at the weekend, and yeah, Liam, it looks like you're eager to come in there.
Oh
I
no,
feel like
I'm just reflecting back on the TT game against Rangers, and I remember you sitting talking about it, and you were promising me that Eagleman was going to be the second coming of
not me,
R9.
not me.
How's he been getting on lately?
That was fucking Humpty in the top corner there, along with Specky. That was it. I didn't think
I
I
keep the
was.
receipts. I keep the receipts. I just I think on Chris Cadden. I mean, I think probably have been his biggest supporter on the time that we've been on the podcast, and I think he is playing ultimately in what is his very niche but also happens to be his twin brother's very niche sort of settled position as wing backs. And I think part of why they have that niche is because they do have a very both different, maybe they both have different skill sets, but they both do have a bit of a niche skill set in terms of a huge amount of what gets them into teams in this league. And specifically our team is their athleticism and their ability to just, I mean, Chris Cadden, I've spoken about this on here before, but Chris Cadden had been out injured very, very long term under Jack Ross, and he just got dropped in a derby at Tynecastle. He played in the right of a midfield three and genuinely had been injured for, I think, a period of 6-7 months, something like that. Came in and was probably our best outfield player that day. Yep. I mean, the conditioning of the pair of them is nothing short of a joke in terms of how they look after themselves and how they act as professionals. And I think fans tend to overlook that because they just look at what the player brings. But you got a guy who's in that sort of condition. It sets a standard that everyone else is then judged against, and it brings the levels up a notch or two. And you need guys like that in your squad, guys who are, you know, standard setters, not necessarily because they shout and moan and complain, but because they set standards by the way they conduct themselves. And that's who Chris Cadden is for me.
He's clearly one of the sort of leadership group as well. Like, I think anytime Boyle goes off that he's on the pitch, he seems to be getting the sort of captain's armband, so maybe sort of third in line. And I think it's really important here that I'll just refer back to the YouTube comments here. Like Chris has just said, don't think you can pick a bad player at the minute. I mean, you're absolutely correct. Lewis Miller's been absolutely superb as well. I totally agree. I thought he was immense at the weekend as well.
Really impressed with Lewis Miller recently. What a
player. Mike, Rocky and Nectar laughing at the Hunsville celebrating the first goal. Yep, that was very enjoyable. Do you know, it was such like a sort of low-key celebration, and then all of a sudden they just start fucking laughing in their faces. It was very enjoyable. That's the sort of stuff that you win the game, so you can then just go, oh, that's so good.
How good was Rocky and Iredale shouting at Dessers and pointing when it was on the floor for that dive? That was fucking superb.
So good, mate. So good. And then
you love to see stuff like that.
Yes. Chris is just sort of backing up you, Craig, with Smith as well, and says big improvement in his game. He's 10 yards further up the park, and it allows him to sweep things up better. I thought that was noticeable at the weekend, to be fair, as well. So many times he was at his edge of his box, ready to collect, which has probably been my biggest criticism of him. I know, you know, sort of when we were sort of questioning him a little bit coming out of sort of the Celtic game and the Dundee United game, that was really what it was around, especially the Celtic goal at Easter Road. But no, it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. Any more business from the weekend other than just laughing at Rangers a little bit more from either of you, or shall we move on?
I just want to say something because I think it does get lost in the moment just when you're talking about this, and I know you're sick of me tweeting about it, but I'm going to bring it up again. You know that we are truly in times that like we may not see another period like this in our lifetime. You know, it's 1947, 1948 season since we last put 16 together, unbeaten in the league. It's a remarkable run we're on, especially, you know, when you consider all the context of what happened earlier on in the season. But I think sometimes, you know, not to get too deep about it, but I think sometimes, you know, as football fans, you don't necessarily like, you live in the moment, right? So you don't necessarily just soak it in.
Yeah.
And I know some people are probably really soaking it in, right? But this for me is genuinely, I'll come back to it, right? Remember when we got asked that question years ago when we went like 4 games unbeaten under Lee Johnson, and someone said, is this the most likeable Hibs team of your lifetime? And of course we all laughed at that question because we're like, no, we've been 4 games unbeaten, and no, I don't have any particular affinity with these players. I actually starting to feel with this squad, this group of players, this head coach, even to some extent, you know, the coach and the staff, you know, real affinity with this team. And, you know, the investment that I have in this team probably now, you know, in the back of some statement victories, and there's been quite a few this season, you know, such an affinity with this group of players that, you know, the success that I want them to have goes beyond just wanting Hibs to do well, but actually wanting these guys as individuals, like these good guys to do well. Just some of the characters, you know, the turnaround in Rocky Bashiri, which we've discussed at length, you know, some of the, you know, the newer characters, shall we say, in terms of Jack Iredale, who's really taken to the club, you know, the Cadden twins, Josh Campbell, who's been much maligned for much of his time here, getting his moment, you know, Junior Hoylett, Dwight Gale at the end of their careers. There's just so much to like about this team, and I really hope that they can go on and seal third now, because I think that's what this group of players deserves, just based on where it's come from and where we've got to. But
Yeah.
I know in football you get what you deserve, right? So like we'll only get it if we really truly
No,
deserve it.
Fuck
I
me,
think
get
that's
him in the dressing room.
I
That
think
was
that's a
class.
really, I think it's a really, well, it's a valid point, Liam. But what you say, like hoping that they get third place and stuff, and like I think we touched on it maybe after Ayr and potentially Dundee United. Now they were both evening games, but even talking about the sort of atmosphere in the stand, where it was almost still like it felt like people were sort of waiting for things to go wrong, and we were still kind of on the players' backs a little bit in that. And look, if I was not to be negative here, but if I was to go off the Craig train of thought that we're going to get beat again at some point, which I don't necessarily believe in. I think we could just win every game for the rest of the time. But like, see, even if we don't finish third this season, I just would struggle to see myself looking back on this season other like as anything other than a success. Like we if you were to even not even to factor in the horrible start to the season we had, if you just went back to where our heads were, at the start of the season, I think I was the only one that sort of predicted a top four finish, which was absolutely through just blind optimism than anything other than we thought. And I think I maybe even said win the Scottish Cup because I say that we're going to win a trophy every year. And by the time that we'd done our predictions, we had Celtic away in the League Cup. So that took my usual one at the game. But to go on the run that we're on, it is, you look back at the Lennon team. The Lennon team didn't get close to this. Like I think it was 12 maybe or 11. Like, not they didn't get close. And then you factor now, it's no easy to go 16 games unbeaten anyway. Like I think you tweeted Liam, nobody outside of the two Glasgow sides has done it this millennium in the top flight. Hibs haven't done it for however many years. Like it is a generational run of form. But you sprinkle in the fact you beat Aberdeen home and away. You beat them home and away. You beat
Aye.
Hearts home and away. You've beat Celtic. You've taken 4 points out of six against Rangers. Like you've won away at Dundee United, who at the time did we win and go above them? Is that right? Or did I think? Or they were fourth in, or do you know
Don't know. I
whatever?
just remember it being a
Like
massive game
aye,
sandwiched in between two
like
massive games, and we won
aye,
all three.
and well, even that week to take 9 points, just to isolate a week, like they are like times where you go, you maybe will. People say, oh, you don't look back on a league campaign if you don't, finish third or you don't win a cup, but you will remember day three games. Like I will remember Sunshine and Leaf, Tannadice with Craig, Sunshine and Leaf. Do you know what I mean? Like I just don't see a situation playing out between now and the end of the season where I can think that wasn't a success.
If we
Because
finish third, everybody will look back on this as one of the best seasons watching Hibs. I think, and
the
you take
best
into account
potentially.
take into account. Well, I mean that week that you're talking about. I mean, saying, "Oh, this is the best week I've had watching Hibs," or the best sort of spell watching Hibs. It's undoubtedly the best spell I've had watching Hibs, and I know Liam kind of said, "Oh, we maybe won't." I'm fairly confident that none of us will ever see a run like this, a run like this. Not going to say that we won't see success that maybe exceeds this, hopefully, but a run like this, I don't think we'll ever see ever again watching Hibs. So, for anybody that's not enjoying it, please enjoy it. Go into the Dundee game, because if you win that, then you're going into the split potentially, if results go your way, with at least fourth nailed on.
Aye. I think the mere fact that I know it's only Monday and it's still a long time ago. I think the mere fact that there's talk of Dundee at home on Sunday being, a Sunday game live on telly, potentially being a sellout against a team that's sitting third bottom of the league or somewhere approaching a sellout. I think it
Aye.
just shows you just how good the feeling is at the club at the moment. And it's just there's obviously, I mean, there's still 6 games to go in this season, right? So like so much can change between now and then. Like we could just have a nuke. I don't think we will, but we could everything could go
We
downhill
could
really
lose all
quickly.
six though and still finish fifth and get European football, which 6 months
Uh,
ago would have been deemed, it'd be disappointing end to season, but would have been a massive success.
aye.
Yeah,
That's how good this has been.
I think if
Like,
you lose 6 in a row at the end of the season, I
you're
don't think
pissed off,
anyone's.
aye, but
I
nah.
know what you mean. I know what you mean though.
I know. Sorry. Anyway, Liam, I didn't mean to. I did mean to interrupt you because I done it. But
All good.
sorry for disturbing your flow. The YouTube comments. Mark Telfer, Rangers were fortunate to win our first Ibrox encounter this season, and that was during our horrible spell. Absolutely,
Aye.
definitely should have taken something from that game. Ian, someone put in the group chat the stats from the previous 15 games, and we've accrued more points than anyone else in the league. Jay and Sandy, directly to yourself, Liam, for your generation, I hope we evolve into the new tornadoes or better. I was lucky to witness those times, and we both got the cup win, mind you. Mark, if Rom was still here with his TV connections, Gray's form from underdog to the best of the rest is stuff of sports movies. Jack, imagine if we started like this. That's what we said earlier on. We just gave Celtic and Rangers 3 months ahead start. We didn't want to upset them too much. Pete, if Rangers win the Europa League, would third place get a Champions League playoff, then drop into the Europa group stages? I don't
I
know.
don't think so
I
because
think
I
it goes
think
like the
it's
coefficient, from there.
no. So what I was going to say with that is they would get the automatic because what the Europe winning that gets you is automatically into the Champions League.
hmm
So I think their place would get upgraded. I don't know though, in all honesty, but
I
steady on,
think
eh?
I know they're going to get pumped off Athletic Bilbao,
It's going to be it's going to be the shag, I
and all
think.
fingers and all toes are crossed for that as well.
Uh,
However, Pete, if you can verify that, I might change my tune just a little
if you can
bit.
verify it, we might change it to the episode title as well.
Ian, yeah, I seen this as well. Think I saw Burnley on a 27 game run. Then ours is in the this is second in the football pyramid. Yes, I think in British football, where it's the second longest unbeaten on the go currently. Uh, yeah, what does third place get us, Jack? I think a couple of people. It's a
Europa League
guaranteed
playoff.
Europa League third round tie. I think if well, it depends. Depends who wins the Scottish Cup ultimately. If, if
But
if Celtic win the cup, your Europa League playoff. If Hearts or Aberdeen or St Johnstone won the Scottish Cup, I think you're like a third round conference tie. I
aye,
think. So really, all our hopes are on sort of Celtic winning the
the
Scottish
third
Cup.
round being the round before the playoff round, and the playoff round is ultimately the round that gets you. And so it'd be two ties you'd have to
Aye, two
navigate to
ties.
get through.
Yes.
Probably both of them would be quite. Certainly, the second one would be very tough. I would imagine the first one would be quite
Aye.
tough. I'd have thought.
Well, Liam, you mentioned the Dundee game. It's the final game before the split, which,
Mm,
I mean, thankfully, it looked like last week that some of the Blazers at Hampden were going to try and get rid of the split. It seems to have been, for the moment, postponed. I think we're all quite uniformed, and in fact, we think the league's actually not too bad as it is, and the split is definitely something that should stay. Um, the run in for third place. Do you know, I was going to say is it frustrating that you win at Ibrox and you stay a point ahead, but I think I would flip that and say that's got to be frustrating for Aberdeen. They must be thinking going into their game at the weekend, if they win, they'll be in third place coming off the
mm,
pitch, and they're
mm.
not. They obviously play Rangers at Pittodrie. That'll finish just before we kick off
Half an hour
against
before
Dundee.
us. Aye.
So could potentially be a massive game. Rangers, their form away from home is, massively different compared to what they're doing at Ibrox just now. So, hopefully they go to Pittodrie and get something at the weekend. And there's a potential opportunity for us there on Sunday afternoon, maybe to give ourselves a bit of a cushion going into the split. As it's pointed out in the YouTube comments from Ian, Dundee are one of the teams we've not beat this season yet.
Yeah.
Where's your head at going into place to play a team that just cannot stop conceding goals?
I think there is a real risk that Aberdeen get something against Rangers on Sunday, so I'm just going to put that out there. I just think Rangers will probably get a bit. I know they're at home on Thursday night, but
Yes.
I think they'll get a bit of a chasing from Athletic Club, to be honest. And I just think I think they'll be tired going up to Pittodrie, and I think you'll deprioritise that now because they've essentially got 6 dead rubbers left in the league.
hmm
Um, so in terms of for us, I've caught a bit of Dundee just in the last sort of few weeks. They do give up a lot of chances, even against St Mirren there at the weekend. St Mirren had quite a lot of chances, just couldn't finish them. They do though carry a threat, and I think is Adewumi, is that how you pronounce it? Adewumi and Simon
He's
Murray,
yeah,
they're
he's a good
quite
player now.
quite they're quite mobile. So we'll have to be kind of on our game. Simon Murray's a threat. Like, and I know there's like this sort of almost like snobbery when it comes to Simon Murray as a footballer in this league, and people kind of look down their nose at him. But if anyone is equipped to deal with Simon Murray, it's Rocky Bashiri, based
Hmm.
on the strikers that he's been up against in this league in recent weeks and who he's got the better of. But I do think it'll be a tough game. I think where we have an advantage is like they don't have the most mobile defence in the world. It's fair to say Shaughnessy's kind of getting on and is their sort of linchpin at the back, and I think we can play through and probably around that midfield without too much difficulty. But I still think they'll carry a goal threat.
Yeah. Expecting goals, Craig?
Yeah, absolutely. I was, to be honest, Liam's kind of said it all there. Like, and I agree with everything he said. Slightly concerned about them starting fast. I know they've scored a number of early goals recently, and I think that's something we'll have to be careful of. Simon Murray, man, the guy just works and works and works and works, and it pays off for him, to be fair. And like you say, Liam, a lot of his goals are actually not bad. Like, I know a lot of people kind of say he's purely work, but even if you look at his goal against Rangers from the corner last week, I mean, what a finish that is. Uh, but I think we've got enough to beat this lot. To be honest, I think we are definitely the better side, and I think ultimately at this stage in the league, uh, the difference in position shows how much a better team we are. But I think they are definitely a team that's coming into a bit of better form recently. So it's not quite as easy a fixture as maybe the league
Hmm.
would suggest.
Maybe when we were
To
doing coming out
comfort
then
myself.
when we were coming out the international break and we were saying, if you beat the bottom two sides in League East, the roads, you're going to the top city into the split second and third. Now, we probably didn't envisage Aberdeen's upturn and for maybe picking up that quickly as well. But Dundee are certainly look more of a competent side than they probably did a couple of weeks ago. They gave Rangers a good game and obviously won at the weekend, but I just can't get over how bad they are at the back.
Yeah.
Um, if I'm being honest, I think 2-0 flattered them at the weekend. I don't know if I mean, what the fuck Zach Hemmings doing for, is it their second goal? Simon Murray's goal, just passes it straight out and
Ah,
then trips over himself. I don't think they've turned that corner, as people would say. I think if we can score and get ahead in the game, that we could be in for a good afternoon. I mean, if we're full of confidence, you know what I mean. We
I,
we couldn't we couldn't be
so
coming at this in a better frame of
I know
mind.
you're sorry, I interrupted you twice there. Uh, just I know obviously you're saying you don't think they've turned the corner, but I think more so than turning a corner, I just think the team, regardless of how they're getting wins, even if you look at Rangers, they probably should have beat them there. They win the derby, they win last week. Like I
Ah,
think they're
no,
just a
that's
team with
true.
a wee bit of
Yeah.
momentum just now, even if they're not playing that well. I just think they've got that momentum, and they've got a couple of guys in the team who are playing particularly well at the moment, and I think they do definitely do pose threats to us.
Oh, they'll definitely carry a threat. That's one thing for certain. I mean, is Simon Murray now the top goal scorer in the league? I think
Can't
that's
be far
correct.
off it.
Um. Anyway, look, we spoke about Dundee enough. I think this is a Hibs podcast. We expected changes at Ibrox, Liam. Do we expect no changes at Easter Road on Sunday?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think the change that I probably think is most likely is Bowie for Miko.
Yep. Craig, would you still align with that, or are we starting to see maybe just Bowie through at the end of the season might just be getting maybe we're getting the best out of him coming off the bench potentially?
Nah, I would start him. I would start him personally. I, I can't decide whether this is management or swapping them round just now, or if it's just he thinks that Miko's maybe in better form just now. Because I know Bowie wasn't uh, too sparking. Certainly at Killaway, I thought it was one of his poorest games in the Hibs shirt. But I just think he offers much more over the 60, 75 minutes that he's on the park for than Miko does. Uh, but like you say, off the bench as well, coming on to tired defenders. I think one of the strongest part of Bowie's game is roughing up defenders and being sort of physical and athletic and agile, and maybe running them a lot. So maybe off the bench isn't such a bad thing either. To be fair.
Hmm. Just Pete's confirmed via GMC that there's no need, we don't have to panic. We don't even have to have a slight interest in Rangers doing well against Bilbao during the week.
Well,
That we would have to finish second. Now, you did say, Liam, they have 6 dead rubbers between now and the end of the season. So maybe the Champions League dream is still ever so slightly alive. I agree. I think if there was going to be a change, it would be probably Kieran Bowie coming in up front. I don't think anyone else looked massively leggy, and it's not as if it's not a midweek game. There's a week to recover. In fact, well, 8 days to recover in between the games. So I expect Hibs to line up with the same team, and I expect us to try and make a fast start and really play the. For me, maybe it's quite similar to St Johnstone game where maybe we don't need to have all the ball, but just keep the ball and just make sure the ball's in their half. I'm not saying I don't think Dundee are going to play as much as St Johnstone, but if they're shaky at the back, try and get their defenders on the ball as much as possible and see if they'll make mistakes. And
would, would neither of you be tempted to bring Nicky Cadden in for Jordan Obita?
Nah.
I don't like starting someone for their first minutes, probably coming back from an injury, if I'm being honest. Obita's good. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like
I
you
know.
know, it's
No,
it's not it's not
no massive drop off there. Like
it's not like he's
it's just a slightly more attacking player, and at home he's maybe just got a bit more in the sort of final third.
I think Obita's, yeah, he definitely does. He absolutely definitely does. But I think Obita's delivery has actually been very good in the games that he's been in. And also probably more going along with you. And I think maybe starting Nicky Cadden, especially when it's a hamstring issue, right for the start, maybe isn't the best. Bleed him in, maybe give him 25-30 minutes at the weekend, because ultimately we're going to have important games coming up after the split. So I'd probably be tempted to just ease him back in at the weekend with the view to him coming back into the team towards the end of the season.
So just Chris has got an earlier score prediction before we've got their 4-1 Hibs. Keep the good times rolling. Ian says maybe we'll sit back a little bit like we've done in the last 2 games. Jay and Sandy, if we set up the same and give 100% again, it's another 6-pointer. We should beat Dundee. Simon Murray's their threat, but up against an informed Rocky, we can take care of him. Are we sure Jay and Sandy isn't just Liam's burner account? Like just just reaffirming everything. Jack, impressive win for them to be honest. Ed, you're right. I did expect Simon to go up there to be honest and do a job on them. And Ian also says he thought Bowie looked tired quick on Saturday. And Chris says he would start Dwight Gale. His movement would destroy the back line of Dundee. I think we're going to see the best out of Dwight Gale in probably 10-15 minute bursts between now and the end of the season. I think he had a real purple patch there around sort of Christmas, January into February time, and obviously with the Derby goal and scored at St Johnstone, didn't he, as well? But probably since then he's not looked quite the same player maybe that he did for that little spell, and maybe his age is catching up with him a little bit at the start of the season. He looked fresher, I think. Maybe
I think so. Yeah. He's looked leggy for a while now, I think. Yeah, he's been really good for us this season, but he has looked a bit leggy.
Well, I do. I'm just looking at what we've put together here. Is it a must-win for third place? I think we all agreed on that probably 4 weeks ago that we need to be winning these games. And when you're sort of, I don't know who Dundee United have got. Dundee United have obviously got St Johnstone, so you'd expect them to win that game. Aberdeen, you don't really know what's going to come, but there's a chance that we might be going into the game, in fourth place, tied with Dundee United. So it is, if you want, it is a must-win game.
I disagree. Just to jump in, I'm not trying to be like take any edge off the game or anything, but I think it's a must-win if we want to really cement our position and show our intention. But I think actually, realistically, it's not a must-win because there's still so much football to be played against the teams in and around us. And I don't even know how to describe this without sounding like so laid back about it. And I'm not saying if we lose, I'm not saying it's shite and all that, but I think even if we were to drop points, it's not like ending any hopes of finishing third.
Well, the worst case scenario over the weekend is that you're 2 points off third. So exactly. So it's no doomsday if you lose, but I mean 17 unbeaten sounds better than 16 unbeaten.
The goal difference we've got over Dundee United is basically worth a point at this stage as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I was looking at that. That's what I was going to touch on it earlier.
And Aberdeen.
If we win and Dundee United lose, which obviously isn't an impossible scenario. I know they're at home to St Johnstone, but St Johnstone obviously really desperate on points coming off the back of a big win against Celtic. If we win and Dundee United lose, we'll be 6 points ahead of them with a far superior
Aye.
goal difference, like you say, Liam. So that is effectively 7 points ahead. So I think if that does play out, for me, that's fourth nailed on at that stage. Like we've got fourth if that plays out at the weekend.
Yeah, I don't see Dundee United picking up more than 6 points after this, but
Yeah,
No, near
exactly.
that. I think the reason I say it's must win is maybe I'm almost looking at it as another. If we go out and win the game, and I don't know if I would say it would be a shock if Aberdeen beat Rangers, but say they just say they don't, even if they draw, that puts us into a position. So we know we've got to go to Pittodrie in the split. It means that we can actually afford to potentially lose to them. But then, as long as you match the results against everyone else, do you know what I mean? Like it does, like that's like it
Yeah,
is getting to the point of the season where wins will, especially with God, you talk about goal difference. Fucking hell, Aberdeen's goal difference is -4. Like it's even worse than Dundee
I know
United.
I highlight Dundee United just because of the
No,
3 points.
no, and of course, like it's just
as
I think if I agree with you, Craig. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but a win, with especially with other results going your way, it would be massive. It could be a really big
ah,
weekend. Anyway, are we all in agreement that we're going to win? That we've got scores predictions flying in. Your brother said 5-0 Hibs. We're due a team of pumping. Jax said 2-1. Jay and Sandy 3-1. I think I got our first correct score last week. I think I said 2-0 last weekend, and
Your first credit score. I've had a few this season.
have you? Right, I do
same.
apologise. Maybe nobody else gives a fuck about their predictions then, and didn't mention them a week later because I know losers like me. Um, I'll take the honour though. I'm going to say that Hibs are going to win this game of football 4-1. Is my prediction. Martin Boyle's going to score 2. Kieran Bowie's going to score off the bench, and Miko's going to score. Miko will get the opener. That's my prediction. 4 goals, 3 forwards, and Simon Murray will score for them because who else actually plays for them? Craig, what about you?
Do you know what? I've not predicted goals in a while, and I'm just going to take inspiration off of John McGlynn in the comments, who predicted 23-3 to Hibs, which is maybe a wee bit more goals than I'm expecting. But I actually think there will be goals in the game, so 5-2 Hibs.
Do you know that 23 free scoreline? It's just got me thinking about Pine Bovrill's tweet today about Motherwell finishing in the top 6 if St Mirren were to win. Don't know if you have seen that. Were St Mirren to win, only Hearts could deny them, unless Motherwell were to win by 10 or more goals. That feels unlikely.
You never know.
Liam, what's your score prediction?
Slightly more cautious than you guys. I'm going to go 3-1. I think it will be one of those games where there will be quite a lot of chances. I think we've ultimately just got the better players. Winning 3-1.
Aye, I think I've. Do we, do you see a comfortable afternoon though? I know we've all predicted wins there.
Not
Like,
necessarily the way through. I think it'll be hard work. I do.
yeah,
I think it'll be hard work. A team down the bottom of the league with all the pressure on them fighting. People underestimate, the timing of these games in the season when a team's fighting for their lives. They can sometimes find something extra in terms of
yeah.
performance. I just think ultimately the team with the better quality of player will show through.
Aye. Right, we're gonna that I think that wraps us up nicely on that, Liam. We're gonna move on to something that's replacing your quiz for the next couple of weeks, much to my displeasure. But from this week onwards, we're going to run through position by position. Some weeks will get more attention probably than this week is because our options were limited on this one, and Hibs won at Ibrox, so we didn't have to have too much filler on this week's episode. But what we're going to do is name our top 5 Hibs players in every position this millennium. And of course, the natural starting position this week is goalkeeper. What I will ask from you each, we'll run 5 through to 1. I want your list in its entirety, please.
Okay.
And just a little bit of comments where you wish. If you feel you need to put context on them, go for them. Liam, this was your concept to replace your quiz, so give us your list first.
I've agonised over this for quite a lot because I'll be honest, I didn't love all 5 goalkeepers that I picked, which I think just shows you the success that we've had in this particular position this millennium. But number 5, I've got Graham Stack. who I think is there probably a lot to do with vibes, because when he signed, I think we're all very excited to sign the goalkeeper who sparked out that fan in Belgium. And he was a goalkeeper who did make saves, penalty saves, some big saves and some big moments, but ultimately was not great, which is why he's fifth.
And he gets to the top 5 of 25 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 4 is Nick Colgan, who was just a steady Eddie, but in a good team, which is why, he's higher than Graham Stack, but ultimately doesn't make the top 3. Number 3 is entirely on vibes and rather than ability, and that is Conrad Logan. Conrad Logan, I think, has to be in everyone's top 5 just because of ultimately the moments that he produced, but probably on ability would be lower than Stack and Hogan. Number 2 is Daniel Anderson.
Okay.
Again, a goalkeeper who produced big moments rather than necessarily was a goalkeeper who I think was spectacular, but he was certainly steady in his time. Hibs obviously the semi-final against Rangers, which is, his contribution to the penalty shootout is well remembered. But again, not a spectacular keeper, but he came in at a time where I think we'd had quite a lot of disappointment in that position. And then what followed Daniel Anderson was not great. And number 1 is, of course, Ophir Marciano.
Yep.
Yeah, I think he'll be most people's number 1s. I'll be honest, there was a couple of players who I didn't pick, and I'll explain why I didn't pick them just quickly. I would have probably had Gregor Shamatulski and Adam Bogdan in my top 5 had they played more games. They just didn't play. They just didn't play enough for me to make the top 5. So people will probably be annoyed that those two aren't in there for some reason. But I think Shamatulski played like
Yeah, I think
a dozen
Bogdan
games or
more.
something.
Yeah, Bogdan
Not
more,
enough for me.
probably.
So that's my top 5.
Aye. Just for any viewers thinking that I had no interest in what Liam was saying there, I was actually just writing them down as he went. I know it looked like I was being extremely rude and texting or whatever, but I was just making sure that I was writing that down. Because you'll be really unsurprised to know that of your 5, 3 of the players don't make my list
Oof.
in the slightest. And I'll be surprised if they're in Craig's list. Craig, you can go now.
Right. I'm definitely going to get absolute pelters for the first one on my list, but probably similarly to Liam, actually, as you and myself were discussing before we came on air, from 2 down, mine is just purely just on vibes and who I decided I liked the most. Absolutely, probably nothing to do with ability, other than maybe one of them. So number 5 is Andy McNeil. Because I was right when I was younger, when I was wanting to be a goalie, and he won the cup with Hibs.
When
So
you were the best keeper in all of East
and Seaton
Lothian.
boys and top player for Seaton boys. So Andy McNeil, absolutely horrendous goalie, but again that's just vibes. He won the cup, so get it up, yes. Now number 4 and number 3, I was swithering which one to put where, but I've gone Adam Bogdan at number 4. Probably because he played less games, but he gets into the list as either number 4 or 3 because of his save away in the Greek away game. Who was it? Asteras Tripoli. Unbelievable save, probably the best save I've ever seen at a live football game. Number 3, I'm going to go for Ben Williams, even though he was a relegation goalie, but he was just class at penalties, and I just have this vision of him saving loads of penalties in my mind. Liam was absolutely fuming at that one. Number 2, Conrad Logan, just for no other reason than the cup. And number 1, Marciano.
Okay.
So yeah, mine's very much ability and number 1, and then the rest are just because I like them.
Fair enough.
And I seen Ben Williams at Ocean Terminal when I was younger as well, so that's why he gets in.
Who was that?
Ben
Ben
Williams, I seen
Williams.
him at Ocean Terminal. So
Yeah, remember Ocean Terminal, man. Fucking hell. Like
class.
that. Absolute fucking desert land now, isn't it? Right. My list. I have just made a last minute change that's going to go down like a lead balloon
You
here.
fucking love when you do this to make a change on the fly every time.
I have made a last minute change and it is in my number 5 spot. Ben Williams has been dropped to the bench to be replaced by Matt Macy. Number 4, I've went for Conrad Logan because if I'm being honest, cup final hero, but I think the three goalkeepers above him are just simply better goalkeepers. Um, Three, Adam Bogdan. I take on board what you said about the volume of games, but I think he was a very good goalkeeper, and I think probably would have played more and be much more sort of fondly remembered had he not come in at a point where we had Marciano in goals. Um, Number two is David Marshall for me. Um, I think maybe got a little bit too much criticism from us
That is
included.
absolutely mental.
Uh,
That is an absolutely mental decision to put him that high up the list. He was
and then,
fucking chronic in season,
and then
and
of
he was
course, my number
decent
one
for a
is
half a
Marciano.
season at the beginning, and then he was absolutely chronic from that point
So
on.
what I would say is I wasn't willing to go for anyone before I got a season ticket. So
Right.
that would have qualified me for 6 months of Daniel Anderson onwards. So from the January of that season. So like I seen the sort of Rangers penalty shootout and stuff, but I mean I would have been 7 years old. What followed him was utter shit until Marciano signed. Right? I mean, I think having Graham Stack in that list, Liam, is wild. Absolutely wild.
Mate, you've just put David Marshall second, and you're telling me Stack's wild. Like I've got
I'm
Graham
delighted
Stack.
I'm not getting away with this.
I've reluctantly put Stack fifth, and you've just celebrated David Marshall being fifth. Like, mate, like, are you hoping that he gives you a job or something?
Maybe. No, no. I think my chances of getting employment at Easter Road were blown quite, quite a few months ago. Um, is there any honourable mentions for this?
Shamatulski genuinely like he signed. I think Marine saying he signed the same window as Dennis Rossa, and the two of them immediately came in and improved us.
The January under Mixon.
The two of them immediately came because they were both. I mean, Rosa was probably better than competent, to be fair, but Shamatulski was confident. I think
Had
he was
he
quite an
been at
injury-prone
Dundee
goalkeeper.
United before?
He had, he'd been
Aye.
there maybe. I don't think directly before, but like maybe a couple of seasons
Mhm.
before. And
Interesting.
I've forgotten who my other honourable mentions. Adam Bogdan, Yusuf mentioned. I maybe would have considered.
The player I
But
took out was Ben Williams. Other players that I was sort of toying with, Jordan Smith. He has actually now played more games than Adam Bogdan for Hibs, but I truthfully just think Bogdan is a better goalkeeper.
I think there's a bit
Just
of historic bias that has to come in with it for certain, obviously this week's goalies, but for certain players just in general. Like I think once you're a few seasons past, everybody seems a bit better. So I think
maybe that's
maybe
why
in a
David
couple of
Marshall's
seasons,
second in my list.
yeah, exactly. Maybe in a couple of seasons, Jordan Smith will seem better because he's part of the team that we finished third in one of the best ever seasons.
We replaced David Marshall with Joseph Bursick. Maybe that's what's throwing my throwing my.
should this? I mean, I wouldn't really want to do it with other categories, but we could probably do an hour long podcast on the bottom five. I
Oh,
mean,
aye.
because it's just genuinely so competitive. I don't think there's a position where we've had, but not in volume of player, because I don't want you signing as many goalkeepers as you do players for our positions. But I think if you look at, good signings versus bad, uh, as a percentage, I would say
Mhm.
we performed very, very poorly in that metric over the last
Quite
25
well known
years.
for it too.
So just having a wee look through the YouTube comments here as well. Leon's Jordan Smith number one. Conrad Logan from Mark Telfer also says that Anderson was a loss. He was a great player. Chris doesn't he agree with Nick Colgan now? I don't know if it's that he doesn't agree with him being as low as four or in your list at all, Liam.
I think it was maybe harsh on him before. I think he maybe could have been a wee bit higher, to be
Okay.
fair, maybe ahead of Logan. But I did explain that I just think, Colgan got us. I was in a team that finished third, but he probably had a better team around him.
Yeah. There's been a few people come in and saying the luxury of going last. I think that's at me changing my list. However, it was then very much quickly followed up by a couple of comments saying that's a fucking shocker. So I'm sure that's actually in relation to Danny Stewart's list that said Williams, Bogdan, Colgan, Marciano, and Anderson. I think that's what Pete's saying's a shocker. No, my list, Pete. Come on, surely. But of course. And we can't forget Harry's number one player, Craig, who of course is clearly the best goalkeeper on here. and that's none other than Mark Oxley, who
Absolutely.
he has just got an unhealthy obsession with, right?
But I mean, the fact that Harry thinks so lowly of Mark Oxley just shows that he knows nothing about football. I mean, to get a goalie that's actually got a goal scoring record at our club is nothing short of brilliant, and he should be on that list.
Thank God Mark Oxley wore contact lenses, eh?
Ah,
So thank
get it
God.
up, you specky.
You know who I just
Eh,
forgot about? Otso Virtanen.
oh, that game against.
Howler in the European.
Oh my God.
And if you're a wee bit older, people might remember a guy called Tony Caig, who was Nick Colgan's understudy, who played a dozen games, who didn't play anywhere near as many games as some of the really bad keepers that
Mhm.
came after him, but had quite a lot of bad moments.
What do you make? What do you make? We're just getting. This is where we just divulge into fucking pub chat. But what do you make of, or did make of, Ross Laidlaw's time at Hibs? Like, obviously, I don't think he was like terrible, but obviously understudy to sort of Marciano, and then, but I never really thought he'd go on to have a sort of very competent top flight career either. Like, that's a for sort of an interesting one. I remember he had a howler at Hampden, I think, against Celtic, but just a weird one.
Unremarkable.
Aye.
He was steady enough. He was okay. He
Mm.
played in Europe away to uh,
Robbie,
Bromby, I think.
Bromby, aye, after they
Lewis Robbie.
came in for Vertanen after the
Yeah.
first saved a couple of penalties that night, I think as well,
He was
or maybe
okay.
one.
He was okay. He's forgettable, to be fair, but
Anyway, that's us covered every
Aye.
single goal he's been in the last 35 years. That's enough
No,
of that.
Liam, we've not got. We should probably talk about Max Boric's highlight reel at
No,
Arbroath.
no,
Macalambi.
Jojo Wallacott.
Oh, fucking hell, Ross County at home. Anyway,
Ah,
that's that. I think that'll do us, boys. We'll get a consensus list and we'll share it on Twitter in the coming days. We'll let the episode sit for a wee bit. And what we're
we'll make
asking
a
for is
consensus list, and David Marshall certainly will not be second by the time I'm done.
please, please, please don't hound us like Terrace gets fucking hounded anytime they post a fucking list. But if David Marshall's still, Ian, no one mentioned Budgie because it was since the year 2000. We did. I think we did stress that. But thank you very much for all your interactions in the YouTube comments tonight. It's greatly appreciated. I hope you all enjoyed the episode. We will be back next Monday, fresh off the heels of the Dundee game on the Sunday afternoon. Hopefully going on another 3 points for the High Bees to make it 17 games unbeaten. And just like last week, the good times are absolutely here to stay. Cheers!
Cheers.
Cheers.
Done. Lauren's literally just texted me asking how long we're going to be. She must need in.